Now, so yesterday, what we started looking at was taxes. So what we started looking at yesterday was we started looking at taxes. Anyone? So that's a quote that someone said. I don't remember who said that. Benjamin Franklin. Yes. Yeah, Benjamin Franklin. Two things in life are certain: death and taxes. So everyone's gonna grow up, everyone's gonna eventually die, everyone's gonna eventually pay taxes, is what that means. So it's a common joke that's kind of gone around. I'm not gonna go too deep into it. I do have the video up there. But basically, we listed a whole bunch of different types of taxes out there. You will probably want them, yes. Not as much today, but a little bit, yeah. So we looked at a bunch of different taxes that are available, like GST, HST, PST. There's like pension stuff. All this stuff has to do with taxes. And we looked at the three different types of taxes you pay. There's your municipal, that's your local, right? I pay the city of Humboldt taxes, your property taxes. That pays for my schools, my roads, my water, stuff like that. There's your provincial taxes, right? That also pays for your schools, your healthcare. There's schools, healthcare, there was keeping the government running, and then there was welfare and social services. Those are the big four for the province. Then there's the federal government as well. So there's the three different levels of government there. And we looked at why they charge taxes there. And do you remember what their main goal is? When the government gets elected in, what do they want? Well, they want money. That's true.
To fund healthcare issues.
That's what they use it for. So the main goal of the government when they get voted in is they want to get voted in again. Yeah, they want to keep getting voted in. So they try and raise more funds for like fundraising. They try and keep, their delegates, the people who voted for them, happy, right? Because then, hey, if you're happy, if you like me, you're going to vote for me again, right? Their goal is they want to stay in power. And so there's two different types of taxes. There's systemic.
On March 8th, there's going to be like some kind of NRJ report about the high groceries.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'll have to pay attention to that. You said the 8th? Nice. So there's two types of taxes. Systemic, those are ones everyone gets charged, right? Taxes everyone gets charged. When we all go to the co-op and buy something, we all pay GST and PST and stuff on that. There's some exceptions, but generally speaking, everyone pays some types of taxes. Then there's user-based, right? If you go and you buy like smokes or alcohol or like pop, there's taxes on that. You buy a vehicle, there's a certain tax on that. So we have our three ways to collect taxes. And then we just look at oops. I'm bad. I didn't know those were up there. Oh, I think those are Stevens there, yeah. And so then what we looked at was we just looked at under the Indian Act, there is some exemptions for people. And any income that's earned on a reservation is exempt. So where we're transitioning to today is looking at paychecks. Specifically, we're going to end up looking at income tax though. But I just want to do a really, really quick thing here. So this is what you're going to want, like either a piece of paper or your whiteboard or, just a really good memory. I just want you to, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes here. If you've ever like worked somewhere, if you've ever seen like, any type of a pay stub, that money gets taken off. Has anyone here ever like, maybe it's you, maybe it's your kid, a brother, niece, nephew, their first day, first job ever. They go to work, they do their 2 weeks a month, whatever it is. They look at their first paycheck and they go from, oh, bunch of money got taken off, right? Money gets taken off paychecks. It can be a lot. Sometimes you could lose like half of your paycheck to deductions. Deductions are when money's taken off. Like if you earn $20 an hour and you work 10 hours, you're not going to get $200 of money. Some of that money is going to go places. So what I want you to do is just a minute or two, write down all the different types of deductions you can think of. So any type of deduction, I want you to write down what you can think of there. So about a minute and a half, just write down any type of deduction. I'm going to be asking around once we're done that minute. Here, so this is the list that we kind of generated here based on what we think we know, and what we're going to do is we're going to start exploring them. So there are it will be. So there are 3 types of categories here. So one is there are deductions that need to happen by law. When your employer is writing out the checks, logging the hours, doing all this stuff to send you a paycheck for the time you've worked, by law, there's 3 things they got to take off. Canadian pension plan, everyone pays into it. Income tax. If you remember, income tax is how the province and how the Canadian government, that's how they get taxation from you. I haven't uploaded this yet. And so there's Canadian pension plan, there's income tax, and then there's employment insurance, EI. By law, those come off. Deductions right there. Those are going to come off the paycheck. Then there are some optional ones depending on circumstances. So these are some other deductions that are allowed. So sometimes you have 2 retirement plans. Sorry? Is that the RRSP? Yes, yeah, it usually be like RRSP. Yes, absolutely. So sometimes it's like an employee pension plan. I used to work at a job where they took off 5% of my salary each month. They also put 5% in. So 10% of whatever I earned went into a pension plan. It was called matching. It's a really, really good deal. Basically working with this now. Let's go to this in a second. This is not on the time currently. This is just for reference. I'll go to this in a second. So what I just handed out is an example of a pay stub there.
Sick hours, vacation pay?
Yeah, sick hours, vacation pay, that's really good ones as well. So sometimes there's benefits, right? You have healthcare, dental. Usually that can come off your paycheck every single month. Union fees, as was mentioned, charitable donation, court fees. What was the wording you used there, Jasmine? Support payments. Yes, absolutely. If I'm not paying it, it can be garnished from my wage. It can be taken from my wage. Absolutely. And then support payments in general. Yeah, like child payments. Employee purchase goods, right? So I think this is kind of what you were going towards, Austin, there. So sometimes if you work at a restaurant, hey, yeah, can I just get a burger for lunch or something? They'll just come off your paycheck, right? It's like, yeah, he ordered a burger on this day, they just take it off. I once got fired working at the Humboldt Golf Course because I had a beer put on there and I was underage. So don't do that. Don't break the law while you do it. You'll get caught and fired. But those are some other deductions. Now, there are some things that aren't allowed to be deducted, and there's common myths around it. It's really important to know our rights with this. So Stephen, your question was, well, what if you damage something? I used to work for Department of Highways. What I did once was I was driving a truck. I had a trailer on the back of it. I was a young, inexperienced driver, never really driven a trailer before. As I'm reversing, it fishtails, goes into the bumper of the truck and like damages it. So I backed up into the trailer, basically. They could not take that off my wages. Now I had to go through my insurance, which ultimately did cost me some money, but they couldn't take that off of my wage. So these are the things you cannot get taken out. If you steal from a store, they can't take it off your wage. They're probably going to fire you. They can file like a police report against you, and eventually you might have to pay them back. But that's stuff that can happen, but it's not going to come off your paycheck. Damage, right? If you damage, your property while at work. If you damage, like maybe you're a plumber and you actually broke a pipe and now their entire basement's flooded, you're not paying for that, just company insurance. If you break something, if you're just not doing a good job at work, they can't be like, I'm not going to pay you anymore, or I'm going to pay you less now. That's not something they can do. Now you see this a lot. This happens a lot. If you're like a server in a restaurant and people do a dine and dash, right? They eat, they leave. So what happens a lot in movies, what happens a lot in the States as well is people think that, Well, Austin, you were the server that day, and I ate a burger and I just ran out, I didn't pay for it. That's coming off your wage. Nope, that's illegal. That is illegal, but a lot of restaurant owners try and pull it anyways, right? So it's important to know your rights. Uniforms as well. You cannot get money taken off your paycheck for a uniform. They can require you to wear uniforms. Sometimes you might have to actually buy them with your own money. Like if there's a restaurant, it's like you need to have black pants. They're not going to give you black pants. But if it's like a McDonald's uniform, like, the big smile and M there, they have to give that to you. So those are some things that are not allowed to be taken off. So by law, these three things have to come off: pension, income tax, EI. These are some examples of things that usually come off. There's also like vacation pay and stuff as well. These are things that cannot come off. So what I handed out to you was just an example of like a bunch of pay stubs. There's an hourly one and a salary one, just for you to be able to see, just for your own reference. Don't have to do anything with it. So where we're transitioning to, though, is income tax. The biggest thing that comes off your paycheck, income tax. If you remember, income tax is how? It's how most of the governments get most of their money. That's the biggest source of money that they get. Your average Canadian pays about $5,800 a year in income tax. That's to your local, provincial, and federal. So overall, entire year, average person in Canada pays close to $6,000 in taxes to everything. You have to file your income tax at the end of April every year, and it's usually deducted regularly on your paychecks. In fact, you guys should be able to see an example of that on that sheet there somewhere as well. Mm-hmm.
So that way, when we do taxes, I'm gonna make like 10,000 last year and for like 700.
Yep.
Sometimes people overpay, right? Or they
Ooh.
overpay.
I like where you're going with that. We are going to talk about that. So I'm leading up to that. I'm going to answer that, but you're right. How do you know you can overpay, you can underpay? Both of those have things that happen in those events, but how do you know how much you're charged, right? It's automatically taken off your paycheck. How does your employer, how does the government know how much you have to get charged? In fact, I'll just spoil it. Like, what happens, Stephen, if you said you paid like 700 in income tax or something, that's an example number. What if you were supposed to pay $1,000, $300 difference? What's going to happen? Nope, Stephen, you owe me $300. I'm the tax man. Pay. Sucks, right? Sucks. You had an unexpected bill. But what happens if you overpaid? What happened if you paid $1,000 and you only actually had to pay $700? You will get that $300 back. Absolutely. So they want to know that you're able to get charged the right amount. So how do they do that? They use something called tax brackets. So what the heck is a tax bracket? Tax bracket, as you make more money, your incomes move to different tax brackets where tax rates increase. I'll show you what this looks like in a second, but here's something you see a lot. There's a really common myth. Oh, you can't give me a raise. I'll pay higher taxes. I'm going to make less money at the end of the day if you give me a raise. I know people who refused raises because they think that. No, that's not how it works. But basically, if I make $100,000 a month, I'm probably going to pay a higher tax rate than you. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%. But usually the more money you make, the more taxes you pay, the higher rate you pay. So here's an example. So want to turn the video or music up, please? So here's an example here. So tax bracket. So let's say, for example, let's imagine you made $100,000. I'm going to show you this in a picture in a second. You made $100,000. Maybe you're charged 10% of tax on that first $60,000 you owe. So $6,000. Then you charge 50% for that next $30,000 you owe. It's not charged 50% for this $90,000. That's not how it works. It's only for that $30,000 there. So $6,000 comes from that $60,000. $4,500 comes from this $30,000. And then if you make $100,000 in total, there's $10,000 remaining, right? $10,000 remaining. The other 90 accounted for here. I get charged 20% on that extra $10,000 there. So what does that look like? You're not wrong some days.
As I said, doesn't it suck? It's like you work really hard and like, oh, half my money's gone. Before it's even in your account, oh, half my money, there it is, gone.
No, but okay, well, there's 10,000. Being stuff.
Oh, not quite. So what this is here, this is a graph of that exact thing. And as you can kind of see here, I know it's kind of small. These are the different tax rates. This is an example. I'll show you what Saskatchewan's and Canada's is in a second, but just to give you an idea, 10% of this first 60 grand, 10% of 60 grand is $6,000. 15% of this chunk here is between 60, it's higher than 60, lower than 90 grand. So there's $30,000 in here. 15% of that is $4,500. And then you have an extra 10 grand sitting up here at the top that's charged at 20% interest. 20% of 10 grand is 200? No, 2,000. All in all, 1,000, so $12,500. So if someone was in these tax brackets, this tax rate, and they earn 100 grand, they'd pay $12,500 in total. So a really common myth a lot of people think is that they think that, oh, I pay 20% on the whole thing. You do not. You don't.
It's just on the amount.
It's just on that highest amount. Yes. Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yes. So this is an example one. I just use easy to work with numbers. I'm going to show you Saskatchewan's. So this is Saskatchewan's right here. That's their tax brackets and rates. So for the first $46,000, $773. So for the first 46, 47-ish grand, you get charged 10.5%. So 10.5% of that money gets taken off, goes to the government. If you earn a little bit more than that, whatever you earn above that, it's taken 12.5%. They take that off, go to the government. If you make a really good salary, over 133 grand a year, anything above that 133 grand, you get charged 14.5% for it. So what is that going to look like on that graph here? Yeah, you only take 10.5% from that first 4,600. $4,900. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm taking it's a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Average Canadian pays almost $6 grand. So if you have that $100,000 in Saskatchewan, that's what it looks like. Do you notice how this 14.5% doesn't exist on this graph? You don't earn enough money to get charged that. So what am I going to get charged? Okay, so yeah. Oh, where it's like, yes. Yes. So what would you owe if you made 100 grand Saskatchewan? You'd have to pay $4,911.17 for this first 46,000. And then anything above that, $100,000 minus 46,773. So on your leftover $53,000-ish, you pay that 12.5%, which is going to be something like 6,000.
If you make $1, it just jumps like.
Remember, if you make $1 over this, you only pay that 14.5% on that $1.
Okay.
Yeah, not on the whole thing. Not on the whole thing. Yeah, you will never lose money for getting a raise. It will only work in your benefit. So overall, no, and that's good. That's good. Like that's a really common misconception, right? I know people who've denied raises because of that. So if you make 100 grand in Saskatchewan, you're going to pay $11,564.55 in income tax. A lot of money, right? But 11 grand, that's a lot.
Trees and those
Mhm.
things.
So
So a lot of people like doing money under the table, right? Because hey, taxman doesn't see it. Now, sometimes you get caught with that, which does not end in your favor, but
Tax evasion.
yeah, kinda. So if you, again, I'm going back to the server example, you work as a server. You get tips, right? You're technically supposed to report those tips. I don't know a single person who's a bartender who reports their tips. I don't know a single one. And they like, if you work as a bartender in like a city, you can make like $30 an hour with the tips. But you're only making minimum wage. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mhm. So yeah, but you're right. So that is technically tax evasion. So, you know, you're playing with fire there, you can get burned. But yeah, so this is an example of Saskatchewan's. Now, this is Canada's tax bracket. I'm not going to show you an example of it, but as you can see, this one has more brackets, right? This one has 5 different brackets for money here. I'm not going to go into an example of it. It's just like Saskatchewan's. There's just more of them, and there's actually higher percentage here. So you pay more. We're almost done. So at the end of the year, you get this form. Does anyone recognize what this is? Sorry? Close, T4. Yeah, so it is a T4 report. So every employer, if you work for them, whether it's for 1 hour or for the whole year, they have to fill this out. This is just basically hey, over this year, this is how much money you made, this is how much deductions there were. Use this to file your taxes. So you have to use these to file your taxes. So here's an example. I'm just zooming in on this top section here. I'm just going to zoom in on this. Here's an example of it. If someone made $45,692, you know, there's different income taxes here. This is how much money went to your pension, how much money went to like EI, your pension plan, so on and so forth, right? This is an example of a T4.
It's just an example.
Just an example. That's not even real numbers. No, just an example. Yeah, that's just an example there. Yeah, yeah. But when you go to file your taxes every single year, you know, you just take these numbers, you're like, oh, what's the box from number 14? It's gonna say, put in number 14. Oh, there's
But
14.
when you do tax online, like in your office, the number, and you just put it there and it just does it.
You can, yep, yep.
Yeah.
You don't even do your taxes.
Everyone could, yeah, like that. A lot of people think it's more complicated than it is.
Well, I do it myself.
Here, I'm almost done. Last one. We're almost done. So rewinding back a bit. So, hold on, guys. Regroup. Almost done. So, rewinding back a bit. Every pay stub, you pay some income tax on it, right? Sorry, not some. You pay a lot of income tax on it, right? A lot of your money goes to that income tax. So go back to it. What happens again? Your employer deducts too much from it.
You get it back.
You're gonna get it back. Absolutely. Yeah. Has anyone ever gotten like money back?
Yeah, I did.
I got a lot back last year because I had so many deductions, like I had tuition, first time home buyer, all this stuff. So I got a lot back.
Yeah.
But the opposite side of the coin sucks. If you paid too little, your tax man's knocking on your door.
And then you got people calling you constantly all.
Yeah, and eventually you will go to court and you can go to jail if it's not paid. They don't want to do that, but eventually that's where it can end up. So yeah, technically you didn't mean to do it. But Stephen, you only gave me 700. You owe me 1,000. Where's my $300, man? So like you didn't mean to do it, but you still owe me 300. Absolutely, yeah. So technically it's tax evasion, yes. So that's what happens there. Now, what you can do is, I never want that to happen. That sucks. Like, you know, stuff's expensive right now. Wouldn't it suck to get a bill for $1,000 from the government? So what you can do, if you're really worried about that, you can tell your boss, hey, boss, I want you to take off a little bit more each month. Because what's gonna happen is, you're more likely to get some back at the end of it. You're more likely to overpay and get that money back. Okay, so that's like a general summary of taxes. It gets a lot deeper than that, of course. Is there any questions so far about taxes before we keep going?
Will employers actually do that?
They will. You have to ask though. You have to ask. So usually they'll have like a checkbox, like you go in, you fill out some forms. Yeah.
But it's like, it's not documented though.
It would need to be documented somewhere probably. Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise, your boss is going to get in trouble. It's like, how can you're stealing money off this guy's paycheck? Like they'll get caught. Mhm.
Say, let's say we were all like. Part of a crew,
Mhm.
right? Part of the work crew or whatever. right?
Yeah.
So we go out to lunch. Right, we'll have lunch. And the employer kept their receipt. And he kept those, you know what I mean, like the taxes. Isn't that like handshakes?
Like if you're paying for your own money, like it's like sometimes you'll get reimbursed for it, like you'll get reimbursed for the money depending on it. Like if you had to do it, like if I'm traveling for work, they're gonna buy me lunch, for example, they'll pay me. Your boss can probably claim it as a business expense if you're a business owner.
That's.
Yeah,
Say, we can get it as a business. But I paid for it.
it's still, but so he has to pay you back for it, but he can still claim it as a business expense, right? Like even though you paid for it, hey, Steven, I'll pay you back at the end of the month. You'll get that $20 for your supper back at the end of the month. I can still claim that $20 at the end of the year. Like, yeah, I had to pay $20 for that. It's a business expense, absolutely. It's a good question. So what's going to happen here now is we're gonna learn a little bit more about taxes. That was just like a general like overview of it. Just wanted to do like a quick like summary of it. What I'm gonna have you guys do is we're gonna go into all the really detailed stuff of it. And that'll be on one of those kind of modules, kind of modules, trying to remember. I'll have some questions for you to answer. What we're ultimately going to lead up to at the end of this week is we'll be looking at filing taxes. Looking at the whole process of that. And some of you have done that a lot. Some of you might not have done that ever. So we'll be going into that process here as we get a little bit later into the week. So what's happening for the rest of the morning then is you guys get some time to explore all the details with taxes, specifically income tax. And then we will be continuing on tomorrow. You need two ways. Yeah. So what I handed out was. What I handed out was this thing here. So this is looks at the income tax module here. So you can get that to the Canada.ca website, head to that money and finances, financial literacy, and your financial toolkit. So if you head to the Canadian website.
So you write this taxes or?
You can do it on Word, you can write it on paper if you want, whatever you prefer. You will not have room on the sheet. You will not have room on the sheet. So once you guys have that, you can head to that Canada.ca site. There's a lot to know about taxes, right? We're spending a lot of money. We want to know why we're spending that money. So we got so once you're on that website. So same thing as usual, head to your money and finances, should be close to the bottom. Just Canada.ca. Yeah. Yeah, English. So money and finances. Yeah, and I got that all on the very top of that sheet too, but yeah, head to money and finances. Financial literacy, you betcha. And then financial toolkit, and it's on module 8. This one here.
When we start the budget?